Following a good round of earnings, Microsoft is jacking up the price of Xbox. Times are changing, and historically, throughout the life cycle of a console, the price will go down. That is how things have traditionally operated, but that is not what we are seeing this time around. A couple weeks ago, Sony said, hey, outside the United States, they were increasing pricing of hardware, and Microsoft, not to be outdone after reporting really solid earnings yesterday, is saying, look, Xbox hardware and games, mind you, are going to be getting more expensive, thanks to a new posting on Xbox. And then there's some aggregate data, which we'll talk about here. But let's dive into this because this is not a small price increase. So this is the official recommended retail pricing for Xbox consoles, controllers, basically all of their physical hardware. And these prices are not cheap. So now the Xbox Series S is going to be starting at $379. And if you want to go for the top dog, the Xbox Series X 2TB Galaxy Black Special Edition, which is a mouthful to say just any way you look at it, $729. That is not cheap. Now, the Xbox wireless headset is getting a pretty hefty price increase up to $119. Elite Series 2 full is now back up to it's $199, but I feel like it was maybe $179, although I've got the more data here anyways. And so actually, why even hold back? IGN did the legwork here and lined up all the pricing, so this makes it a little bit easier to consume, if you will. So most price increases for the consoles are around $100. The Series S 512, I guess $90 or there, $80. No, 90. Yeah, $80 if I could do simple basic math. And so you can see when you look at the 2TB Galaxy Special Edition, yikes, we're looking at a $129 price increase starting May 1st. So you're pretty much out of luck if you're trying to buy one, unless you can go run to Best Buy and find something that's sitting on the shelves to clear up maybe some old stock. But even the basic Series X is $599. My friends, this does not bode well for next generation Xbox or just console hardware at any level, because I mean, we already saw what the Switch 2 was going to be, is priced, right? And so Xbox current generation is going up a significant amount. Now, one of the interesting things that I noted yesterday during the earnings is like, hey, it's actually, that's a little off center. It's actually pretty hard to find a console right now. And so this is from the official Xbox store as of yesterday, and I'm assuming all their pricing has been updated by now, is that a lot of these things are sold out and Microsoft just doesn't have it. I suspect that their allotment that they initially produced, and maybe they stopped producing them, right? They do them in batches. That's pretty typical. They got to rerun the lines, and it's like, hey, everything has increased in pricing by a lot. And so Microsoft's like, we're not going to eat that. And that's just the way that it is. Typically, people would say, but look, consoles have always been sold at a loss, wrong button there. And so Microsoft should continue to do that as well. But like, that's not how it's happening here. And that's not the expectation. And if Microsoft isn't making money on increasing things by $100, then they probably weren't making money to begin with, right? And so this is a pretty dramatic change. And it's just so untraditional, if you will. Now, and the bad news doesn't really stop there, actually. Microsoft also announced that game pricing is going to be $79 for first-party titles, not starting today, but by the holiday shopping season, that price is going up. Now, the one thing they haven't said is going up yet is Game Pass, but if hardware's going up, games are going up, Game Pass is probably going to be going up because it's such a gosh darn good value, to say it, whatever. But you would have to expect that is going to be the next thing that is going to be changing because, hey, they're putting all this stuff in there. And you can't just continue to do that for the same price, especially if first-party titles are going up. Now, granted, Xbox Game Pass did increase in monetary value, right? They did change and increase the pricing there, so maybe they'll hold off a little bit longer, or maybe they're trying to like really push that pricing up so that more people jump in because the subscriptions are growing. And so, although Microsoft again did not do this, I don't really know what else to say. This just makes me worried more about the future than the past because Microsoft is now in a pretty stable state with this current generation of hardware. Like, they know what they're going to be doing. The Game Pass, the revenue is up, and it's continuing to go in the right direction. Now, people who grasp onto that hardware and say, but hardware sales were down. It's like, yeah, we're this far into a generation. Prices are going up. Things are expensive. That's kind of expected. And Microsoft is probably, I'd be curious to know where they landed within their initial pre-release projections. But, you know, those are things we'll probably never know, at least not for until a few years later when a tell-all book comes out. But with these prices, Microsoft is making it clear that, hey, if you want an Xbox, you're going to be paying for an Xbox. We're not going to be giving these things away. We're not going to be running and slashing big deals. It also probably explains why, remember, I noted that there were not really any Black Friday deals this holiday shopping, or this previous holiday shopping season. This probably explains why, because they're like, look, if we cut that pricing, we're losing potentially $100 or $200 per Xbox, and that's not sustainable. And so for Xbox to grow in revenue, which is what their objective is, they are a for-profit publication company at the end of the day. There you go. So yeah, when I start thinking about next-gen hardware and everything else, I don't know if Microsoft just had this 4D brilliant strategy. Now, granted, we don't know the entire strategy yet, so maybe I should bite my tongue on this. But the perception is that, like, everything is an Xbox, right? That has been playing out. That's a marketing campaign and everything else. And then the next-gen Xbox is more like, hey, anybody can build it. It's just a specialized piece of software that is run. You're Xbox certified, and then you can play the games as you do today, where you just turn it on and it's up and running. If hardware is truly going to be next-gen hardware, I mean, if you look at these prices, next-gen hardware, $500-600 is going to be the absolute basement bottom, right? You would imagine whatever the Xbox Series S next generation product is, probably at least $499, and then like the Series X is probably like $699. Which, dang, guys, you can build a pretty decent computer for that kind of money. And yeah, like, not much more. You can get a really great computer. Like, these things are approaching $1,000 console. While it seemed crazy, but then you go look at the PS5 Pro pricing, and that starts with a 7. And all of a sudden, you're in the neighborhood of $1,000, which we all know will get you a pretty decent gaming piece. Yeah, you're not 4K, 120 frames per second, on all bells and whistles turned on, but you're definitely 1080p, 60 frames per second locked for sure at $1,000 price point these days. And you can get into 4K. It just might not be full HDR, ray tracing at the max levels, but you could do 4K, probably at least 4K 60. I don't know why I keep saying 120. 4K 60 probably for sure pretty stable at $1,000. You might be buying some last gen hardware, but I think it's doable. Anyways, that is not the point here. The point here is that Xbox is getting more expensive. The game price increasing. I expect we will reflect that across all studio titles here. Oh, and Grand Theft Auto is dropping this fall/holiday season as well. That's obviously going to be at that higher price point, and I bet it's even higher. I bet they try to go for the upper echelons, because that title is expected to gross billions with an S at the end when it is released. So anyways, prices are going up. Nothing's getting cheaper, but the only BS on this channel is me, and maybe those price increases.